The more pernicious problem that we have with CCPA and CPRA, California Consumer Privacy Act and California Privacy Rights Act, is that these two laws, especially California Privacy Rights Act, has established an unelected, unaccountable group that gets $10 million per year plus the cost of living adjustment factored in. So if the cost of living goes up, they get more than $10 million, right? $10 million for this 5-member team that does not enforce the law. The law may be enforced in any way that they see fit. They're supposed to give a fine of $7,500 per intentional violation, $2,500 per unintentional violation of the law. But they're allowed to let the company slide, and they're even allowed to say, it even says in the law that if the company didn't intend to violate the law, if it was an accident, well, that's what that $2,500 fine is for, specified in the law. It says they're fined $2,500 if they violate the law, and if they do it on purpose, then it's $7,500. Okay, so now they later on in the law, they say that here's some of the reasons why the Office of the Attorney General may choose to not fine them. Some reasons why the OAG might not. It doesn't say what the clear definition of how the OAG's new 5-member team is expected to perform. Like, we don't have a clear set of guidelines for how this team must perform. And so what if they don't perform in a desirable manner? What if they do something that's against whose expectations? Well, there aren't any expectations written into the law. Only the vague contradictory that they can fine them $2,500 for violations, $75 for intentional violations, but that they can, on their own discretion, choose not to apply that law. That's the best of my understanding of the law. There's no accountability, right? Like I said, these are all appointed. They're all appointed by Democrats. So now what we have big tech censorship. We have the Democrat Party and all the Democrat politicians supporting that, pushing their ideologies through the social media platforms. So the public perception is that all of these great new ideas are really what the public thinks. And it's really a distortion of reality, because what you'll find a lot of times is that people don't actually believe the things that are being promoted as general consensus. But that's what they want you to believe. Everybody believes. They want to create the illusion of a certain accepted ideology and public perception of what the public thinks. And to some degree, it is having an effect, because people are still voting in Democrat politicians. But now what they're doing on top of this, and this is related to what I'm talking about here, they're going after the judicial branch, right? Now, this is not just court packing. What they're doing is they're creating a new group, 5-member group. They created a new group within the Office of the Attorney General to take care of handling your data integrity issues, your consumer rights issues. So if you've been censored and you want your data back, you have a right to get it. And if the company that you tell them you want your data back, the company doesn't give it to you, you can file a claim with the Office of the Attorney General, and they'll take care of it for you. Right. Now, the Office of the Attorney General can look at your claim, and they can look at you. And if the company says, we don't want to give him his data back because we don't agree with this, and it violates our terms of use, and the OAG says, well, you're required to by law, but since I agree with you, I don't have to care. Crumple it up and throw it in the trash, delete it. They don't have to care at all. And who's going to hold the OAG accountable? Maybe the California Bar Association, if we're lucky. But that's a huge amount of overhead for somebody to go through. First off, think about it. You post something on social media. It was deleted. You've already wasted your time. The next thing you have to do is make a claim to that social media company that you want your data back. You have to record that claim and save it. Save a record of having sent that claim. And the next thing that has to happen is if you don't get that data back, you have to then file a claim with the Office of the Attorney General stating the date and the claim that you filed with that company to get back your data, right? This is a lot. So it's very tech-savvy stuff, and you have to have a high level of knowledge of the law, of technology, and how to get around and navigate this whole system. It's hard, okay? And I'm pretty savvy with this stuff, and I'm saying it's hard. It's a lot of work. It's not just complicated. It's a lot of work. After you submit your claim to the OAG comes back and says to give you some baloney response, some auto response letter. They do nothing, which is what they'll do. Then what you do is you have to file a claim with the California Bar Association. So you call up the California Bar, you wait on hold for 20 minutes, you tell them your story, they send you a form, you tell them the story again, you write it all down. The California Bar Association then goes to investigate the Office of the Attorney General. If you're lucky, they find that the Office of the Attorney General did something wrong. However, since the law is so written that allows the Office of the Attorney General great leeway, right? It's like that horse has sailed. We can't go and, we can't even go back and, there's no recourse for the consumer. You've already lost your data and you're trying to get it back, and they're just laughing at you, making you jump through all these hoops. And the reason that they've done this, and if you look up Alastair McTaggart, you'll see what his wife is all about. She's all about that social equity stuff. I have a suspicion that this whole California Consumer Privacy Act and Consumer Privacy Rights Act are really anti-consumer. I believe they are for the promotion of more censorship and more societal control through these big tech companies, and that the way that they've implemented it in a very sinister manner is to promote it as if it's for your own good. They're trying to help you protect your data rights. So they put this law through, and in order to get your data back, all you have to do is click a button on the company's website. Or they say this, right? They make it look so easy, but it's not. And what happens when the company doesn't comply? You file a complaint with the OAG. And what happens when the OAG does nothing? Well, then you have to go to the Bar Association. And then what happens? The Bar Association looks at the law, and the law says right in it, well, the OAG, maybe there's some plausible deniability. They can say, hey, you know what? We didn't feel like taking action on this particular case, and we have our own reasons, and we're allowed a certain amount of leeway in this. And we've talked with the company, and you don't have the right to audit us because we're the Office of the Attorney General. And no, we don't have to give you all of the details of this particular case. It's private. They may say something like that, or I don't know what they're going to say the next thing. Point being, there's a whole heck of a lot of work you have to do in order to uphold your rights through the California Consumer Privacy Act and California Privacy Rights Act if you want to get your data back. Now, what happens when the company deletes your data, right? Let's say they delete it. It goes through, you submit your form, it goes to the server, it says some comments are not being displayed at this time, right? And then you think, well, it's being censored. The company deletes it. It never makes it into the other database where the rest of the comments go. And you request your data back from the company, YouTube in this case. YouTube doesn't give it back to you. And then what do? Then you got to go through the whole process again. That's going to take you another 10 hours. You're dedicating your life to getting your data back. That's what Alastair McTaggart wants. He wants to have Democrats controlling social media through the judicial branch. That's exactly what they're doing. They put their censorship hooks into the judicial branch, and they got you to believe, and they got me to believe, that this was all for consumer rights. It's not. This person, Alastair McTaggart, is a sinister individual. This is evil.